Li Jinho's feet hurt. After 6 hours of walking through the Grand Museum of Galactic History, even his comfortable walking shoes couldn't help anymore. He looked at his tourist map again, trying to figure out where he was. The museum was huge, taking up almost half of the capital city on planet Kura. Level 47, Ancient Artifacts Section, he muttered to himself, looking at the glowing signs. The hall was quiet and dim, with soft blue lights highlighting various old items behind force fields. Jinho had seen enough ancient pottery and tools to last a lifetime. A large room caught his eye. Unlike the other display areas, this one had no other tourists. Strange, since his guidebook marked it as important. Inside, a single object sat in the center, a big chair that looked like it was made of crystal and metal. Jinho walked closer, wiping sweat from his forehead. The chair was beautiful, with swirling patterns that seemed to move in the light. A small sign floated next to it, but the alien language setting was wrong, showing only strange symbols. Just 5 minutes, he said to himself, looking around. No guards were nearby, and the chair didn't have a force field around it. That meant it was okay to touch, right? Like those interactive displays on level 12. Jinho sat down. The moment he touched the chair, everything changed. Blue light shot up from the floor, forming circles of strange writing in the air. The chair began to hum, and Jinho felt a weird tingling all over his body. He tried to stand up, but something held him in place. Alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed everywhere. Jinho heard running footsteps and shouting in different alien languages. "Oh no," he said. "I broke it. I broke some ancient alien chair." 4 security guards rushed in, their uniforms showing they were from 4 different species. They raised their weapons, then stopped suddenly. All 8 of their eyes, 2 per guard, went wide. "Impossible," said the tallest guard, their throat patches changing color from blue to yellow. "The sacred throne accepts him." "What throne?" Jinho asked, still stuck to the chair. "I just needed to rest my feet." More aliens ran in. Some wore fancy clothes, others had official-looking uniforms. They all stared at Jinho like he had grown a second head. One of them, wearing what looked like a museum worker's outfit, pushed through the crowd. "I am Chief Curator Du Young," they said in perfect Earth Standard language. "And you, human, have just activated the throne of the first species. The throne that has killed everyone who tried to sit on it for the past 5,000 years. Jinho looked down at the chair, then at the crowd of shocked aliens, then back at the chair. His tourist guidebook had warned about respecting alien cultural sites, but this seemed a bit much for just sitting down. "I don't suppose saying sorry and promising never to sit on ancient furniture again would help," he asked hopefully. The throne hummed louder, and more circles of light appeared, filling the room with blue patterns. In the distance, more alarms started going off. "No," said Du Young, looking both scared and excited. "I'm afraid, young human, that your life just got much more complicated than a simple apology can fix." Jinho sighed. He had only wanted to see some alien museums during his vacation. Now it seemed the vacation was over, and something much bigger was starting. At least he thought. The chair was pretty comfortable. The museum's emergency meeting room was too cold for Jinho's liking. He sat wrapped in a borrowed blanket, watching aliens argue in various languages while their translation devices struggled to keep up. The throne room's blue lights still glowed in the distance, visible through the large windows. Chief Curator Du Young stood at the front of the room, trying to bring order to the chaos. Their normally neat uniform was wrinkled, and their hair had come loose from its tight bun. "Please," Du Young said, raising their voice. "We must follow proper procedures. The prophecy is clear about what happens next." "What prophecy?" Jinho asked, wrapping the blanket tighter. "I really just wanted to sit down." Du Young walked to a wall and pressed their hand against it. A screen appeared, showing ancient writing that shifted into Earth Standard text. 5,000 years ago, Du Young began. The first species vanished. They were the most advanced civilization our galaxy had ever known. They left behind only their throne and a warning that one day a worthy heir would return. Jin Ho raised his hand like he was in school. But I'm not an heir to anything. I'm just a regular person who saved up for a space vacation. The throne disagrees, said Du Young. For 5,000 years, anyone who tried to sit on it was thrown across the room. The lucky ones lived. The unlucky ones, they didn't finish the sentence. A tall alien in the back spoke up. But he's human. Their species only achieved spaceflight a century ago. Maybe that's why it worked, Du Young said thoughtfully. The first species records say they valued new perspectives. And humans are certainly different. Jin Ho wasn't sure if that was a compliment or not. So what happens now? He asked. Du Young touched the wall again. New images appeared, showing strange buildings and complicated machines. The prophecy says the heir must prove themselves through 3 trials. If they succeed, the first species' greatest secrets will be revealed. And if they fail, Jin Ho didn't really want to know, but he had to ask. Let's focus on success, Du Young said quickly. Too quickly. More alarms started ringing. An alien rushed into the room, their spots glowing with excitement. The ancient sites, they're all activating. Every first species location in the galaxy is powering up. The room erupted in chaos again. Jin Ho watched as the screen showed more and more dots of light appearing on a galaxy map. Each one represented a place built by the first species, waking up after 5,000 years. I don't suppose I could just apologize again and go home, Jin Ho asked hopefully. Du Young shook their head. I'm afraid not. The process has already begun. The throne recognized something in you, Li Jin Ho. Something that might be important for everyone in the galaxy. Jin Ho looked down at his tourist clothes, his comfortable walking shoes, and his backpack full of souvenirs. Nothing about him seemed special enough for this, but the throne had chosen him, and from the way everyone was acting, saying no wasn't an option. Can I at least call my mom? He asked. She's going to be worried when I miss my flight home. Du Young actually smiled. Of course, but perhaps don't mention the part about accidentally claiming an ancient alien throne. At least not yet. Jin Ho nodded. That was probably good advice. He just hoped whatever trials were coming wouldn't be as scary as everyone's faces suggested they would be. News traveled fast in space. Within a day, every major species knew about the human who had activated the sacred throne. Jin Ho watched from a secure room as Ambassador Kim Hae-Newell tried to handle the situation on multiple screens at once. Yes, we understand this is unexpected, Hae-Newell said to one alien group. Their diplomatic training was being pushed to its limits. No, Earth did not plan this. Yes, we are taking it seriously. Jin Ho sat on a normal chair, careful not to touch anything that looked important. The room was in Earth's embassy on Kiora, filled with screens showing news from across the galaxy. His face was on most of them. Your mother called again, Hae-Newell said, muting the screens for a moment. She's upset you canceled your trip to the beach planets. I told her I got a job opportunity, Jin Ho said. I didn't mention the part about maybe being the heir to the most advanced civilization ever. Hae-Newell nodded. Good. The last thing we need is Earth's media finding out before we have a plan. They turned back to the screens, where more alien faces demanded answers. Security teams from 12 different species guarded the embassy. Some wanted to protect Jin Ho. Others wanted to make sure he didn't run away. Jin Ho wasn't sure which group was larger. A new face appeared on the main screen. The alien looked like a cross between a tree and a crystal, with light flowing through their branches. The Council of Elder Species demands the human be brought for testing, they said. We must verify the throne's choice. The human has a name, Hae-Newell said firmly. And Mr. Lee is under Earth's protection until we understand what's happening. More arguments broke out. Some species said Earth was too young to handle this responsibility. Others worried the first species technology could be dangerous. A few seemed excited about change. Jin-Ho walked to the window. Far below, crowds had gathered. Some held signs in different languages. He recognized a few Earth tourism posters he'd seen yesterday, now being used as protest signs. "Ambassador," he said quietly, "what happens if I fail whatever tests they want to do?" Newell muted the screens again. "Then we prove you're just a tourist who sat in the wrong chair. But if you pass..." They looked out at the crowds. "You could change everything. The first species technology could solve problems we've had for centuries." "No pressure then," Jin-Ho said, trying to smile. A new alarm sounded. One of the security guards rushed in. "The throne. It's moving." Everyone watched the screens as the sacred throne lifted off its platform for the first time in 5,000 years. Blue light surrounded it as it floated through the museum halls. "Where is it going?" someone asked. Jin-Ho felt a strange pull, like the throne was calling him. I think it's coming here." Newell looked at the chaos on the screens, then at the floating throne approaching the embassy. "Well," they said, straightening their uniform, "I guess the tests are starting sooner than we thought." The sacred throne floated in the embassy's main hall, glowing softly. Jin-Ho stood before it, trying not to look nervous as Yoon Soo-ji, the xenorchaeologist, explained what would happen next. "The throne's eye wants to test you," Soo-ji said, checking readings on her tablet. "It's been waiting 5,000 years to talk to someone. Try not to say anything stupid." "Thanks for the pressure," Jin-Ho muttered. He stepped closer to the throne, which hummed louder. Light burst from the throne, forming a face made of blue lines. The AI spoke in a language no one had heard for 5 millennia, but somehow Jin-Ho understood it. "Why did you sit on the throne?" the AI asked. Jin-Ho thought about lying, about making up some noble reason. But that felt wrong. "My feet hurt," he said honestly. "I'd been walking all day, and it looked like a comfortable chair." The eye was quiet for a long moment. Then it did something unexpected. It laughed. The sound was like crystal bells ringing. 5,000 years, the AI said, "and you're the first to give a simple, honest answer. Everyone else spoke of destiny and power. You just wanted to rest your feet." Soo-ji frantically took notes as the AI continued speaking. "The first species valued truth above all," it said. "Even small truths, like sore feet. But now you must prove you can handle larger truths. Are you ready for your first trial?" Jin-Ho looked at Soo-ji, who nodded encouragingly. "I guess so," he said. "What do I have to do?" The throne's light spread, creating a huge maze in the air. "Solve this puzzle," the AI said. "But be careful. The wrong answer could start a war." Jin-Ho studied the maze. It showed different alien species as symbols, all connected in complex patterns. Some connections were strong, others weak or broken. "It's a map of galactic politics," Soo-ji whispered. "Every species' relationship with others. One wrong move could offend someone important." Jin-Ho looked closer. Then he smiled. "No," he said. "It's simpler than that. It's like the subway map I used yesterday. You just have to find the right connections." He reached out and started moving the light symbols. Instead of trying to make everyone happy, he looked for the shortest paths between species. Soon, the maze changed shape, becoming a simple network where everyone was connected to their closest neighbors. "The first species knew we couldn't make everyone best friends," Jin-Ho explained. "But everyone can be connected through others. Like how I got to the museum yesterday. 3 train changes, but I still arrived." The eye's face seemed to smile. "Correct," it said. "An empire built on forcing people together fails, but giving them ways to connect, that lasts 5,000 years." The maze disappeared. The throne's light dimmed slightly. "You have passed the first trial," the AI said. "But be warned, the next ones will test more than your mind." They will test your heart. Suji was still writing furiously. This is amazing. Your simple human way of thinking solved a puzzle that stumped our best minds. Thanks, Jinho said. I think. He looked at the throne. Any chance the next trial could wait until after lunch? The AI laughed again. Some things never change, it said. Even after 5,000 years, people still need to eat. 3 days after passing the first trial, Jinho found himself in trouble. A group led by Park Sang-min had started protests outside the embassy. They said the prophecy was wrong, and a human couldn't be the heir. The first species were beings of pure light. Sang-min shouted to the crowds. Not some tourist who got lucky. Suji watched the protests from the safety of the embassy library. She had found something interesting in the old records, but hadn't told anyone yet. Jinho, she called. Come look at this. He walked over to her desk, careful not to touch any of the ancient tablets scattered around. What did you find? Look at these images of the first species, she said, pointing to a hologram. Everyone thinks they were made of light and crystal, but look closer. Jinho squinted at the image. The beings in the picture looked bright and shiny, but underneath, they look almost human, he said, surprised. Exactly. Suji was excited. They weren't light beings. They wore suits made of light and crystal. Under those suits, they were a lot like humans. A loud boom shook the building. Security alarms started ringing. Someone's trying to break in, a guard shouted. They have old tech weapons. Jinho ran toward the throne room. He didn't know why, but he felt he needed to protect the throne. As he entered the room, a wall exploded inward. 3 figures in black suits stepped through the hole. They carried weapons that glowed with familiar blue light. First species technology, Suji said, running in behind Jinho. But how? The attackers raised their weapons, but before they could fire, the throne's light flared up. A shield of blue energy surrounded Jinho and Suji. The throne is protecting him, Suji said in awe, just like the records said it would. The attackers fired anyway. Their shots bounced off the shield, leaving them looking confused. Then the throne did something else. It sent out a pulse of light that knocked the weapons from their hands. Impossible, one attacker said. The weapons of the first species cannot fail. Unless, Suji said, the throne knows they're being used wrong. More guards arrived, surrounding the attackers. As they were being arrested, Jinho noticed something odd about the throne's light. It was making patterns on the wall, patterns that looked like a map. Suji, he called. What are those symbols? She looked where he pointed and gasped. Those are coordinates. The throne is showing us where to go next. She checked her tablet. It's showing us the location of their main temple. Jinho sighed. Let me guess. We have to go there for the next trial. Yes, Suji said. And according to these symbols, we need to hurry. Something big is about to happen. Jinho looked at the throne, then at the hole in the wall, then at the map. At least this is more exciting than my original vacation plan, he said, trying to stay positive. The throne's light pulsed once, almost like it was laughing at him again. The temple of the first species looked like a mountain made of glass. Jinho and Suji stood at its base, along with Ambassador Haenul, who had insisted on coming. The second trial is inside, Suji said, checking her readings. The throne sent us here for a reason. Jinho touched the glass wall. It lit up under his hand, and a door appeared. Well, that's new, he said. They walked inside. The temple was bigger on the inside than it looked from outside. Halls stretched in 3 directions, each glowing a different color. 3 paths, Haenul said, just like the old stories. Wisdom, compassion, and courage. Which one should I take? Jinho asked. All of them, a familiar voice answered. The throne's eye appeared in front of them, its face made of light. But not alone. That is today's lesson. Sujai stepped forward. I'll take the wisdom path. That's what I'm trained for. I'll handle the political talks in the compassion path. Haenul said, it's what ambassadors do. Jinho looked at the last path, glowing red. Guess that leaves courage for me. The AI nodded. Each of you will face a challenge. But remember, no one succeeds alone. They split up. Jinho walked down his path, trying to look brave. The hall led to a large room with what looked like a broken machine in the center. Your test, the AI said, appearing again. This device powers life support for 1,000 sleeping aliens. It's failing. Fix it. Jinho stared at the machine. I don't know how. I'm not an engineer. No, the AI agreed. But you have friends who might know. Jinho thought for a moment, then smiled. He pulled out his communicator. Suja, I need help reading these symbols. Haenul, can you translate them into something I understand? Working together, they figured it out. The machine wasn't really broken. It needed 3 people to restart it, each doing a different task. The courage wasn't in fixing it alone. Jinho realized. It was in admitting I needed help. The AI smiled. The first species knew that the strongest person isn't the one who can do everything. It's the one who brings people together. All 3 paths lit up green. They had passed the second trial. That wasn't so hard, Jinho said, relief in his voice. Perhaps, the AI replied. But the final trial will test more than your ability to work together. It will test your right to rule. Jinho frowned. But I don't want to rule anything. The AI's light flickered, almost like a wink. And that, young human, might be the most important test of all. Jinho couldn't sleep. Tomorrow would be the final trial, and his stomach felt like it was full of space butterflies. A soft knock on his door made him jump. It's me, Suji whispered. You need to see this. He followed her through dark embassy halls to her office. On her desk, old tablets glowed with new information. I found out who Park Sang-min really is, she said, pointing to the screens. He's part of something called the Guardian Order. They'd been watching the throne for 5,000 years. Before Jinho could reply, a voice came from the shadows. Very clever, Dr. Yoon. Sang-min stepped into the light, but he looked different now. His clothes had the same crystal patterns as the throne. You're wearing first species technology, Jinho said. We all are. Sang-min waved his hand. More people appeared, wearing similar outfits. The Guardian Order keeps their legacy safe. We had to know if you were worthy. So the attacks, the protests, they were tests. Suji asked. Of course. The hair needed to show kindness to enemies, not just friends. Sang-min smiled. You passed, by the way, using the throne's shield to protect others, not hurt the attackers. Jinho sat down hard in a chair. I don't understand. Why didn't the first species just stay and rule? Why leave tests and trials? Because they saw what was coming. Sang-min said. Species fighting species. Everyone wanting power. They knew the galaxy needed to learn to work together. But they didn't leave, Suji said, looking at her tablets. Did they? No. Sang-min touched his crystal suit. We changed. Evolved. Some of us stayed to watch, to wait for someone who could bring people together without forcing them. A tourist who just wanted to rest his feet, Jinho said quietly. Someone who never wanted power, Sang-min agreed. That's why the throne chose you. But tomorrow's trial isn't about proving you deserve power. Then what's it about? Proving you know what to do with it. Sang-min headed for the door. The first species aren't gone, Jinho. We're just waiting to come home. Tomorrow, you decide if the galaxy is ready for us. After he left, Jinho looked at Suji. No pressure, right? She checked her tablets again. The good news is, you've passed every test by just being yourself. The bad news is, tomorrow I have to be myself with the whole galaxy watching. Jinho finished. Through the window, The first light of dawn was appearing. The final trial was about to begin. The ancient capital city of the first species floated in space, a massive structure of crystal and light. Representatives from every known species filled its great hall, waiting for the final trial to begin. Jin-Ho stood before the sacred throne, which had brought itself here. Su-Jai, Hae-Nul, and Sang-Min stood nearby. The throne's eye appeared, larger than ever before. The final trial begins, the AI announced. Lead Jin-Ho, heir to the first species. What is your command? Jin-Ho looked at the crowd. Some faces showed hope, others fear. Many just looked curious about what this human would do with such power. I have a question first, Jin-Ho said. What happens if I take the throne? You would rule, the AI said. The first species technology would be yours to command. Our weapons, our ships, our power, all yours. Jin-Ho nodded. Then he did something that shocked everyone. He walked up to the throne, but instead of sitting on it, he sat on the floor next to it. I don't want to rule, he said. Nobody should have that much power alone. The crowd erupted in whispers. The AI's face showed no expression. The throne chose me because I was tired and needed to rest. Jin-Ho continued. Not because I was special. I passed the trials because I had help. Suji's wisdom, Hae-Nul's compassion, even Sang-Min's secret tests. I succeeded because of others. He stood up and touched the throne gently. The first species didn't leave to find someone to rule, he said. They left to find someone who understood that ruling isn't the answer. So here's my command. Share the knowledge. Not the weapons or the power, but the things that help people. Medicine, clean energy, ways to talk to each other better. The AI's face began to smile. Behind it, Sang-Min and other Guardian Order members removed their crystal suits, revealing themselves as first species members. That, said the AI, is why the throne chose you. Light burst from the throne, spreading through the hall. Where it touched, information appeared. Cures for diseases, solutions to energy problems, better ways to translate languages. The first species never wanted to rule again. Sang-Min explained. We wanted to come home, to be part of the galaxy again. We just needed to know everyone was ready. Jin-Ho looked at all the amazed faces in the crowd. So what happens now? Now, Hae-Nul said, we all learn to work together. For real this time. Can I go back to my vacation? Jin-Ho asked hopefully. Everyone laughed. The throne's light dimmed to a gentle glow. Actually, Suji said, we could use your help explaining first species technology to people. You're good at making complicated things simple. Jin-Ho smiled. Okay. But first, can we get some chairs in here? Real chairs, not ancient thrones. My feet still hurt. The AI's laugh echoed through the hall one last time. 5,000 years of waiting were over, all because a tired tourist needed somewhere to sit.